Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first Maven time of the year. It is the start of 2024, and we have our newest Maven with us today, Alex Harding. Alex, thank you for joining us on your first day back at work.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, Alex, you are our newest Maven, and how this works is this is very much a time for you to be introduced to our community and let people know who you are and what you do. So, can you tell us a bit about who you are and what it is that you do in our sector?
No worries. So I am the managing director of a business called Dataphoria. We've been in operation for 14 years, and we provide a range of data-driven solutions for fundraisers and non-fundraisers as well, which I guess separates us from some others. We make sure that we learn across the two. We help people to either leverage the data they already hold to learn more about their donors or to predict what they might do next. But we also help people to acquire new donors. So we provide things like marketing lists. We help people put marketing lists together and merge and purge it and put it all together. We help people to profile their donors and understand who they are and then find more people like them. And predominantly, I think we're known in the sector for lead generation. So for 14 years, we've been providing, actually more like 12 years, we've been providing leads on demand for a range of charities. On a pay-per-lead basis. So we provide survey leads, telephone leads, and then digital journeys, I guess, but all on a cost per lead that are normally converted by call centers into regular givers. So I think people know us for, I guess, helping them to find out, who to target, how to target them best, and then how to optimize and make sure that every dollar they're spending is going to the people that are most likely to become a good donor.
Yeah, so that was what I was about to say. Ultimately, you are here to help everyone raise more money for their causes.
Pretty much, yes, and that's really important. So there's a lot of, I guess, different metrics we see in market around things like CPA, cost per acquisition, or conversion rates, which are from contact rates and things like that. And we've noticed over the years that all the different call centers just seem to have different ways of skinning a cat. So, they might say a contact rate is, the phone answered and it was not a voicemail and someone said, bugger off. That's not a contact. Whereas someone else would say that is a contact, but someone else might say, I had a 3-minute conversation. And that's a contact. And then if you're thinking about if you have a different contact rate and you're looking at conversion rate, it doesn't really mean anything if everyone's jumping off a different bar. So, we try to think about, from a lead generation perspective, something that's more meaningful. So we look at all the cost that actually goes into telephone calls, with the human beings and any other management-related costs. We look at the cost of the leads that people, procure from us. And then when we're calculating whether something works, we're looking at, based on the average gift you're getting from a source, let's say you're getting a $30 average gift, that means that it takes, 1 year to get $360 return. And then we look at, what was the cost? How much they spend on leads for that? And then, how much they spend on calling for that. And let's say it was also $360. We then know that it's a 12-month payback. So it takes 12 months to pay back money they've invested. And then we also look at attrition rates from each source. And so what we're doing is we're working out how much does it cost to get a donor in? How long do they stay? And then, therefore, are they actually profitable in the long run? Is this a good exercise? But also, is there anything else we understand around customer lifetime value, for example? Are some of these donors good for bequest, or are they converting into Christmas donors as well? So we're trying to optimize to make sure that every dollar someone spends is really getting them a good return.
Absolutely. So tell me how did you land up in the fundraising space? What's your background?
So my background was media planning and buying about 23 years ago. And I used to do above-the-line planning on television, radio, press, and internet in its infancy in the UK and then over here. I did work with Marie Curie Cancer Care and with Earthwatch Institute over in the UK. Over here, I tried to do the same with Jaguar Land Rover and Volvo as a media planner buyer. Found that it was really difficult to measure ROI. You couldn't really see what was going on when there's a big dealer network and you're spending lots of money. So I moved into data. And then ended up working with a business called Vida Advantage, it's now called Equifax, and broke off in 2009. And I'd started talking to a few fundraising organizations at the time, and they allowed me to take some clients with us. And it's a funny one because when I set up the business, I'd been brought in by Vida to diversify their business and to break them out of credit card marketing into other verticals. And so therefore I decided it was a really good idea for us to work in a few different spaces as Data4. So for example, we work in global tech, work in energy, worked in insurance, and we worked in fundraising. Fundraising, though, has actually ended up as a really big part of what we do, because I guess when something works, people tell their friends about you. So we've ended up with more and more clients in that space. But fundraising is a really important thing to me as well. Even before I had a career, when I was at university in Southampton in England, I remember watching a documentary on what was going on in Kosovo at the time, which was awful, and some of the work that Oxfam was doing, and felt obligated to do something about it. So at the time, I worked in radio and worked in a nightclub. So I organised a great big disco event and got everyone from my course to go and hand out flyers and do things like that. And we raised a few £1,000s and had a really, really good night. And I just loved it. So I think I've gravitated towards the fundraising space because you not only do you get, really good insights, and, it's a space where a lot of people are actually really active in direct marketing, but you also feel like you're doing the right thing. So as an organisation, we're really selective with who we work with. So we're a heavy no for gambling. We're a heavy no for, unscrupulous lenders.
Yeah.
We're a heavy no for anyone that doesn't really ultimately benefit people. So charity's a no-brainer, really, in terms of working with people that you want to work with, because A, it attracts nice people, so they're lovely to work with as clients for my team. B, you feel like you're actually doing something,
Absolutely. This side of fundraising is definitely out of my comfort zone. I'm a kind of on the ground kind of event relationship fundraiser, and so this side of it, if any part of it, kind of the whole data and the number crunching and the working out, it doesn't. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable because it's. But what I have learned is that we live in and it might have been you, Alex, that told me this. That we live in a world of consumerism. Everything, everyone is trying to sell you everything, and actually, why not sell a good cause? If you're going to, we can't avoid it. And if you're part of, putting an offer in front of people to buy something, then let's make it something that's going to change the world. So my opinion is changing.
Well, it's funny you say that. I'm reading a book at the moment called Shantaram, which I'm guessing you might have read. I'm not sure.
I think maybe that's what we were discussing. Yeah. I was thinking, I think I'd asked if you'd read.
Yeah, and it's very philosophical. It's about a guy that was he escaped from an Australian prison and ended up in India, and it's him understanding India and what's going on over there, and it's wonderful. But it's very philosophical. And he considers, ultimately what's a good person and a bad person, what's a good act and what's a bad act. And then he considers whether sometimes you can do a bad act in the name of good. And it's interesting because I do sometimes think, well, we provide a lot of data.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, fundraisers do make telephone calls and irritate people at dinner time.
Yeah.
And people do worry about concerns around privacy, we're selling information. And therefore, I guess in some people's opinion, it would be nice if it stopped, because then there's people to be contacted. But then you think, well, the mild inconvenience that some people, receive from receiving some marketing, a letter or a telephone call, if you look at the percentage of people that actually do want to help and actually do sign up, that probably wouldn't have done if they hadn't actually been,
yes,
I guess, triggered into doing something. It seems worth it. And therefore, I think if I go back to what I said a minute ago about who we don't work with, there was an agency once, an ad agency, that bought an associate of mine in to talk about analytics. And they said they wanted us to show how we could help to understand who people were and what they're going to do next. And we showed some software we use and how it all worked. They were really excited. And then they said, well, we've got a client we can do this with. They're an online gambling company. They've got all these people that used to be donors, and they're trying to work out how to reactivate them and get them donating. Gambling again.
Yeah.
And we're like, I'm not doing that. If they manage to stop gambling, good on them.
Yeah.
And it would have felt terrible. But at the same time, if somebody said, we had people that used to give us money and then they stopped for whatever reason, I don't feel so bad at all about, reactivating that and working out who's likely to say yes if you write them a letter. And it's also, if you think about it, fundraisers, they're custodians to the dollars that are actually donated to them.
Yeah.
So it's really important as fundraisers that we all consider the fact that if people are giving us their hard-earned money and they want us to do something good with it, if any of it's going to then get spent back in fundraising, that it goes as far as it possibly can, and that you don't waste any money. You don't want to write to people or call people, which is quite expensive to do, that aren't likely to donate. The key is to make sure you're understanding who is likely to donate and try to understand, what is predictive of that.
Absolutely. So tell me, what do you think are the top 3 priorities for anyone kind of working in the sector today?
Oh, I'm focused, I guess, on the data side.
The data, yeah. So
it's interesting. I read recently, when I was looking at the Privacy Act reform documents from the government, about how, I guess, consumers have this strange, conflicting thoughts. As consumers, we like to receive marketing messages that resonate with us and are relevant. Being a male, I get frustrated if a fashion retailer where I've only ever shopped buying clothes for men start sending me women's clothing ads, which I've had in the past. And you're like, this is just frustrating. You didn't ask me maybe what gender I am, but you can obviously see with my transactional experience who I am. Therefore, if you're going to take my time to send me an email and you want me to read it, send me something relevant to me.
Yeah.
And I think people expect that from the people they're communicating with. So I think it's really important to be relevant. At the same time, though, the conflicting thing is that people don't feel that people should have their information held with other people for a long period of time. But I think it's really important to try to understand who your donors are and what they're likely to do next and what's interesting to them. So if you're sending an email out and it has a number of different items that people can click on, taking a look at what they're interested in and where they spend some time on your website. So giving people relevant information and not bombarding them with rubbish.
Yeah.
I think also on that basis, if you consider how many, and I think I put a slide up in one of your conferences about, how many Instagram reels are posted every second, and YouTube videos and documentaries and tweets and all these things go out all the time. You've got to think, if you're buying someone's time, you've really got to give them something in return. So you want to make sure that you're actually relevant and that you're actually giving them insights that are relevant to them. So if they're donating money to you, then you need to make sure that you're actually showing them back what you're doing with that in a good way, giving them relevant things that are focused on the donor and the experience that you should be giving them, and I guess what impact they're having. I get frustrated when I see CEOs of fundraising organizations sending out emails with a picture of them at the bottom and their signature and a great big thing about how wonderful they are and the good job they're doing, because no one cares. What they care about is, I gave you this money and you did something great with it. So I think relevance and understanding who people are is important. Secondly, I think also asking donors what they want and surveying them in terms of communication preferences. We do direct mail here, as from a data perspective, and it can be quite good. But personally, I'm not direct mail responsive. I don't really have time to check my mail. I'm more email or phone responsive. Now, as an organisation, over the years, our team has chosen different organisations to donate to, and we've given thousands of dollars, on regular occasions to different organisations. And I get frustrated when then they write me lots and lots of letters. I might receive 10, 12, 15 letters from one organisation, and I'm thinking, you're kind of wasting the money I gave you. I gave you money online. Why not ask me how I want to be communicated with?
I think it's a real indicator. If they send you a check, they like the mail. If they do it online, they like online.
Yeah. And I think thirdly, trying to understand the why. I think fundraisers need to understand why people are giving them money. I think it's easy to assume a lot of things. And again, a little bit like the surveying in terms of, how people want to be communicated with. I think people need to understand why, because I think as fundraisers, we often effectively can stare at our own navel, so to speak, and end up just assuming we know why people are giving, when in fact we don't really know. And again, it's relevant to different people. What actually means something to one person that isn't the same as someone else. So trying to either have segments based on what people's why is, or at least just ask in general what people's why is. Because when I ask the same two questions of any organization really want to meet them, which is, who are your donors or who are your customers and why do they give to you or why do they buy from you? It's interesting, the why is often not known as well. So I think really just understanding that why is really, really important.
I absolutely love that. So there's lots of lots going on about the chat GPT, the digital advancement. And, I always all come back to, I quote my Ken Burnett quite often, who's always said over, the last 40 years, no digital advancement will change the fundamental principles of what it is that we need to do. How true do you think that statement is that standing the test of time with something like ChatGPT that's come along?
So there's a book called Good to Great, which I'm not sure if you read, but it talks about running a good business, and it talks about what are the key things you need to do. It's a whole range of brilliant things in there. It's a little bit like the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, but it's more about, what should a business do that wants to go from being good to being great.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that it says, don't get overly excited about something that's new and shiny.
Yeah.
Don't try to fit your business into a new technology because you're excited about it. Think about what your business fundamentally does and what you offer and why people buy from you. And then if you can leverage technology to do it better, then do. So I think the key is not to say, well, AI looks exciting, I need to go and build an AI business. I think the key is to say, what am I doing at the moment? What do I have time to do? How do I do it well? And how can I leverage technology where it's applicable? So I've seen ChatGPT used badly. I've also seen it used brilliantly. And fun fact, when we were at Terry's brilliant session in New Zealand, we found that if you use ChatGPT and you do the right thing by, saying, well, let's create the profile of the person I want to talk to, and then let's think about the tone we want and what we want to get from it. It can come up with some really good copy. However, reading over Christmas the news, which funnily enough I sent through to Terry as well, about was it the Wall Street Journal suing them? I think it's somebody, a big title is suing ChatGPT for copyright infringement. Because it's just taking all the information. Anyone that went to university or remembered, about how you do your Harvard or whoever it is, your different notations and footnotes. There's none of that in there. So we do have to remember that, again, we're using copy.
What you put in, what you put in there is going to be put out to the world, isn't it?
It is. And you have to think to yourself, am I really, do I really own this information I'm putting through it? So it's an interesting area at the moment. I think large language models are going to have a very big impact. And I think in the same way as if I think about being a data business, I used to work for a business called Dun & Bradstreet, and they sold business leads, business-to-business leads. And when I was there in 2004, I met a lady that used to work there years ago, and she talked about hitting her sales target at the end of financial year once by driving out to a business with a whole load of contact cards in the back of the car. So, literally printed out contact cards. And I laugh about that now because I think, obviously, we just, send an encrypted file and it's an Excel and it can go or API or whatever it is, that's how far we come. So, if we hadn't, taken on Excel and SQL Server databases and getting out of that world, we wouldn't have progressed. So I'm sure that in the same way, large language models will be something else that help us get to the next level. But I wouldn't want fundraisers to get too distracted by something unless they see a real benefit and unless they're also pretty sure, I guess, that they're not breaching copyright by using it.
Absolutely. Okay, Alex, we're going to start wrapping up soon. But before we go, we need to know a bit about you. So I'm introducing a new segment now to all of our guests. We're going to have different conversations this year at the Fundraising Nest with our Mavens and other fundraisers out there on the ground. We're going to introduce this or that. It's going to tell us a bit about you. I'm going to give you 10 this or that. And let's see if we can find out. So we're going to go mountains or beaches?
Beaches.
Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
Movies or books?
Books.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Morning bird or night owl?
A few years ago, I definitely would have said night owl, but now I think it's morning bird.
Camping or hotels?
Hotels.
Phone calls or text messages?
Phone calls.
Pizza or curry?
Pizza.
And Marmite or honey?
Honey.
Wonderful. And tell us, outside of work, where can we find Alex? I know you've got your hands full with lots of Tamariki little children, but where can we find Alex when he's kind of away from work, away from the kids? What is it that kind of fills your cup?
I'm a bit of an endorphin junkie. I don't drink alcohol or anything like that anymore, so you'd find me exercising. So it's unusual to find me not in a situation in which if I have a spare few hours, I'm mountain biking the bush or paddleboarding or going for a swim or just doing something where I can, I guess, build up a sweat and get outdoors.
Or looking at very expensive stereo equipment.
Yes, there is that as well. I do.
Awesome. Final question I ask everyone. What advice would you give to your younger self that you wish you knew then that you know now?
Buy Bitcoin and sell. Well,
My husband's answer. Yeah.
yeah, I think that'd do it. And then yeah, but I think also maybe I should have learned analytics a little earlier in life. I think it's interesting because a few years ago, a lot of people were looking for analysts, and there weren't any. And now I heard the other day of a data job going, and there's a lot of people looking for that role, and in fact, lots and lots of really good applicants. So I think it's interesting. I think people need to leverage data a lot more than they do, and I think people are just catching up to that now. So I think it would have been nice to actually learn a bit more about it a little bit earlier in life. I think it was about 20 years ago when I really started looking into it, and I think it would have been nice to study it a bit at uni and actually get a bit more into that area too.
Yeah, brilliant. Alex, it's been a delight having chatting with you today, and I know you will be part of some of the activities coming up this year. We are going to be having we're going to run 4 debating chambers this year. I'm super excited about debating chambers. We've got debating chambers. Each of our Mavens are going to do a live Q&A with questions from our community, and we're going to do a few research review panels. So watch this space for our Mavens and all the activities coming this way later this year. And Alex, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, thank you. And that is the end of Maven Time. Bye for now.
Cheers.